All right, we are moving into the discriminant. The discriminant is a little formula that's going to tell us how many roots. So we have to remember what the word roots means. Roots means solutions or x-intercepts. So sometimes they give us a bunch of different words. So remember, an x-intercept is when y is 0. And we are in lesson 12.4. All right, so the discriminant is the b squared minus 4ac. Remember, this is the part under the radical, but right now we're not looking at the radical. We're just going to look at the b squared minus 4ac. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. Example 1 is giving us a lot of information. The first thing we know is that the equation is negative x squared plus 4x minus 3. While we're here, let's go ahead and name the a and the b and the c. The a is what? Negative 1. The b is a positive 4. The c is a negative 3. So notice when it's equal to 0, they're saying, hey, these are the roots. These are the solutions or the x-intercepts. So we know that if we plug it into this b squared minus 4ac, we can see how many roots it really has. Now, we can obviously graph it on a graphing calculator and see that as well, but this discriminant is going to give us an actual number. So if I take b squared, that is 4 squared, minus 4 times a is negative 1, times c is negative 3, and it looks like I get 16 minus 12, which is a positive 4. So the discriminant is actually a positive 4. So let's think about it. If, remember, we have x is equal to opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. If this right here, this discriminant right here, is a positive number, there will be 2 roots, okay? If that was equal to 0, so let's say positive real number, it's going to be 2 roots. Now, if this is equal to 0, remember there will only be 1 root because it's only going to have, well, we'll look at that in a minute. Let's go ahead and look at that in a minute. And if it ends up being a negative number, we know that they are going to be what we call imaginary roots. Now, we don't need to worry about imaginary roots in Algebra 1. We will worry about that in Algebra 2. So, we know that there are 2 roots or 2 x-intercepts. Well, we have to find those. So I'm going to use that a, b, and c, and I'm going to plug it in to the quadratic formula. X is equal to opposite b plus or minus square root. Well, I already knew that was 4. I don't even have to solve that because I know the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac. That was already 4 all over 2a. So I end up getting negative 4 plus or minus 2 all over negative 2. And remember, we actually have to solve this. So I have negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2. Well, negative 2 over negative 2 is a positive 1. That's one of them. And then if I have negative 4 minus 2, I get a negative 6. Well, negative 6 over negative 2 is a positive 3. So, whoops, meant to circle that. I know that 1 and 3 are my roots and my x-intercepts. So my roots are 1 and 3. My x-intercepts are 1 and 3. Wow, there's a lot of information in this one question. They are telling us to graph it. So I know that already that it's going to go through positive 1 and positive 3. And remember that we can find the x. I'm going to go ahead and write that equation up here again because I can't see it. So y is equal to negative x squared plus 4x minus 3. So we know x is equal to the opposite of b all over 2 times a. So I know this is negative 4 over negative 2, which is a positive 2. But to find the y point, I have to plug it in. So negative 2 quantity squared plus 4 times 2 minus 3. So I have negative 4 plus 8 minus 3. Well, negative 4 plus 8 is 4. Minus 3 is going to give me a positive 1. So I know at positive 2, positive 1, I'm going to have a problem. Which makes sense because your math teacher taught you that from that vertex you could go over 1, down 1. We know that this negative is going to tell me to go down. And then we could go over 1, down 3. And we could go over 1, down 5. So your parabola is going to look like this. And I know when the A term is negative, it is going to go upside down. So let's look at some rules of the discriminant. The discriminant is only that b squared minus 4ac. And they say if it is positive, it has 2 roots. If it is negative, I don't know why it says 1 double root. Because that's wrong. That should not be there. Huh. Isn't it wonderful when you find mistakes on your notes? This should be 0. So let me write this one out. They call this 0. There we go. It does have a double root. We'll look at that in just a second. And this should be the negative. I kind of already wrote this out. And we're not talking about imaginary. We're just going to call this 0 roots. So my notes are wrong. Please forgive me. Let's talk about this negative, or this double root. Okay, so let's do one that we know. If I have x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 0, I know that this is going to be x plus 4 times x plus 4. And I know that when I set this up equal to 0, x is going to equal to negative 4, right? So we know that there's only one root at negative 4. And I know this is going to be positive, so I know it's going to go over 1 up 1, over 1 up 3, and I know my equation, my parabola from here for graphing. Let's look at that discriminant. That discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Well, b squared is 64 minus 4 times a times c, which is 16. Well, 64 minus 64 is going to give me a discriminant of 0. Now, I didn't have to use the quadratic formula to solve this. I knew how to solve it just by factoring, but let's go ahead and look at that quadratic formula. We don't have to. We already know the solution. X is equal to opposite b plus or minus square root. Well, that discriminant was 0 all over 2a. Well, notice when it's 0, I only have negative 8 plus or minus 0. Well, that's going to be the exact same thing. Negative 8 plus 0 over 2 is negative 4. And negative 8 minus 0 over 2 is also negative 4. So guess what? I already know the solution is at negative 4 because I factored it. Remember to always use that best solution for solving. All right, we're going to do one more, just talking about the discriminant and talking about how many roots. Maybe we'll do a couple. I know the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. B squared minus 4ac. So I have 16 minus 16. Hey, we get a 0. How many real roots will there be? There will only be 1. Again, I don't need to use the discriminant. I can actually graph this on a graphing calculator and see it. But if this is my only option, sometimes the discriminant is very helpful. All right, we have our A, our B, and our C. I'll label those for you. So I have b squared minus 4ac. Well, negative 3 squared is 9. And 8 times 5 is 40. So I get a negative 31. What did they say about a negative number? There are no roots. So I know the discriminant is negative 31. And there are no roots. So when they're asking you to find the value is this, and then the number of roots is this. All right, let's go for one more. And then if you're in class, we're observing with the TI. We have our A, we have our B, we have our C. B squared minus 4AC. So I have 4, and it looks like minus a negative 4 is going to be plus 4. The value of the discriminant is 8, and I know if the number is positive, there will be 2 real roots. So if you don't want to miss out on observing with the TI, you can go ahead and get out your TI and talk about how many roots and what the x-intercepts are. You could even tell me where the vertex is. We're going to do these in class.